Hi, this is Rishant. In this video, we are going to explore some of the recent works in Delayed Bandits. This video is done as a part of the course Topics in AI offered in IIT Madras. We now explore some of the differences between the instantaneous bandit, the delayed bandit, and the reinforcement learning setting. In the instantaneous bandit setting, the rewards are instantaneous. However, in a delayed bandit setting, the rewards aren't available instantaneously and are available only after a delay in time. In the RL setting, the reward could be either instantaneous or delayed depending on the problem. However, for both the instantaneous and the delayed bandit setting, the rewards for the current action are independent of history. However, in the RL setting, the rewards for the current action are dependent on history through states. Let us now consider an example for the delayed bandit setting. The example we consider is that of an e-commerce recommender system. The recommender system recommends a product to the user. The user then takes some time in deciding to buy the product or not. The recommender system then receives the reward if the user buys the product. Thus, this reward is naturally delayed. The two works which we consider in this video are Stochastic Bandits with ARM-dependent delays by Anne Gale Managi et al., published in ICML 2020, and the second one, Non-Stationary Delayed Bandits with Intermediate Observations, published by Bernardet et al. In ICML 2020. The first work which we consider is Stochastic Bandits with ARM-dependent delays. Previous works considered only fully observable or bounded delays. This means that the delay is observed as a separate entity as soon as an arm has been pulled. However, the reward will be observable only after the delay. This work considers only partially observable delays. This means that only the combined effect of both the delay and the reward is observable. We'll see what this means as we move through the video. We will now discuss the stochastic delayed bandit setting as presented by the authors. We have a sequence of T rounds, a finite set of K arms. The distribution of the reward associated with arm I is mu I, and this is unknown. We assume that it has a support of 0, 1 and a mean mu I. The distribution of the delay associated with arm I is di, and this is also unknown. We denote the CDF of this distribution as tau I. We now see how the learner plays his actions and how the environment chooses the corresponding rewards and delays. At each round T, the learner chooses an arm IT which belongs to the set of K arms. A reward is then sampled by the environment from the reward distribution of the chosen arm. A delay is sampled from the delay distribution of the chosen arm. Both the delay and the reward are independent of each other. The main distinguishing feature of the setting considered by the authors is that neither the reward nor the delay are revealed at step T. What we have instead at every subsequent round T plus U is the following observation. We have the product of the reward of the arm pulled at time T and the indicator function denoting if the subsequent delay associated with the arm pulled at time T has been passed. Thus, we have the reward if the delay has been passed or 0 otherwise. At every round T, we have the complete history of the rewards received so far for the arms pulled, which is denoted by HT. Note that this is a bandit setting and we only have information for the arm pulled at time T. We now explore why this is a partially observable case. The only quantity which is observable is XTU as we discussed before. It is the product of the reward and the indicator function denoting if the subsequent delay for the reward has been passed. So there is an ambiguity if the observed quantity is 0. This could be for two reasons. It could be that the reward itself is 0, or it could be that the indicator function is 0, which means that the delay hasn't been passed. Thus, there are two events which lead to the same outcome. The main assumption made by the authors in this work is the following. They assume that the delay distribution, the tail of the delay distribution denoted by 1 minus the CDF of the delay distribution for every arm I is less than or equal to m raised to minus alpha. Note that the smaller the value of alpha is, the larger the upper bound is and more heavy tailness is permitted. Thus the assumption becomes weaker for smaller alpha. In this work, the authors consider the usual notion of foresight regret, which is the difference between T into the best expected reward among the arms and the expected reward of the learner. Let us now consider an estimator at step T for the mean of the reward associated with arm I. The numerator of this estimator is the sum of all the observed quantities for all the pulls of arm I so far, The denominator is the number of times RMI has been pulled. Note that this is similar to the estimator of the reward in the UCB algorithm, except that the estimator is now biased because of the multiplicative effect of delay indicator in X. Because as we have seen before, X equal to 0 does not necessarily mean that the reward is 0. The most important part of this work is the following theorem. It states that if assumption 1 is satisfied, then with probability 1 minus delta, the absolute difference between the estimated mean and the true mean for RMI is less than or equal to the sum of two terms. The first term is the standard deviation term, which is similar to the one found in Herding's inequality, and the second one, which is induced due to the presence of delay. Note that the presence of alpha in the exponent indicates a reference from assumption 1. Also note that delta is only present in the standard deviation term. Now that a probabilistic upper bound on the absolute deviation has been established from the previous theorem, the authors move on to establish a upper confidence bound on the true mean of the reward associated with RMI. This is similar to the standard UCB algorithm and is obtained by setting delta to 1 by kt cube in the previous bound. There is a presence of an additional bias term as discussed in the previous theorem. Now that a few important theorems and upper confidence bounds have been established, the authors move on to describe their main algorithm titled patient bandits. The patient bandits algorithm proceeds exactly in the same way as the standard UCB algorithm. The only difference actually lies in the estimate of the upper confidence bound. The upper confidence bound estimator used in the patient bandits algorithm is exactly the same as what we have seen in the previous slide. Now that the authors have clearly described the patient bandits algorithm, they move on to analyze the regret of this algorithm. This analysis is based on clean event analysis, which is something similar to what we do in standard bandit algorithms. Note that there is a problem dependent bound in that we have the presence of delta I, which is the gap between the best expected reward and the reward of RMI. Note that the reward is also the upper bound is the sum of max terms. The max is taken over two terms. The first term is similar to what we have in the standard UCB algorithm, and the second one is the bias term induced due to the delays. By bounding the delta i's, the authors convert the problem specific upper bound to a problem agnostic bound. The order of this upper bound is maximum of root of kt, comma k raised to alpha t raised to 1 minus alpha. Note that as alpha decreases in value, the bound degrades because of an increase in the exponent of t. This work also lower bounds the attainable regret under the delayed bandit setting. This theorem essentially shows that it is possible to construct a problem under the delayed bandit setting such that any algorithm suffers a regret larger than t raised to 1 minus alpha by 8. Thus, this is one of the possible lower bounds. Additionally, previous works have shown that any bandit problem, any algorithm under the bandit problem suffers a regret of at least root of kt. Thus, the regret suffered by any algorithm under the delayed bandit setting is at least max of root of kt, comma t raised to 1 minus alpha. As we have seen in the previous slide, the upper bound of the patient bandits algorithm matches the lower bound by at least up to logarithmic terms. The patient bandits algorithm needs the parameter alpha as an input. This parameter is needed to estimate the upper confidence bound at various steps. Um, uh, Also, it is important to note that if assumption 1 holds for one particular alpha, it holds for lower values trivially. Um, the paper also explores other possibilities in cases in which we do not know the best alpha, which is the highest possible value which alpha can take. Um, of course, the bounds which we have obtained are alpha dependent and degrade with lower values. Thus, if we use a bad estimate of alpha, which is a very low value of alpha, the regret bounds would be bad. There exists a corollary to the theorem which establishes the problem specific upper bound for the patient bandits algorithm. It shows that in cases where t is large enough such that certain conditions are met, if the patient bandits algorithm is run with time varying parameter alpha as a log of log t by log t, then the regret is upper bounded by this quantity. Note that the order of the upper bound is the same as the problem specific upper bound which we obtained before. The previous corollary works only for large enough t. The authors also show that through this theorem that if an algorithm is optimal for a problem satisfying assumption 1 for a particular alpha, it is not necessarily optimal for another problem which satisfies assumption 1 for a larger alpha. Thus, the Paschen-Bandich algorithm cannot adapt or can be suboptimal for wrongly estimated alphas. Now the authors propose a small change to the Paschen-Bandich algorithm such that it can learn alpha on the go. However, to do this, they need an additional assumption on the tail of the delay distribution such that it is lower bounded by an additional factor of c into m raised to minus alpha. Essentially, this increases the alpha-ness of tail. With this assumption, the authors now establish a lower confidence bound on the value of alpha. This is done using an estimate of alpha, which depends on the rewards obtained so far, and the confidence term here is essentially the one which is obtained from the assumption. In the Paschen-Bandich algorithm, at every step in the UCB estimate of the reward, we used the parameter alpha. In the adapt Paschen-Bandich algorithm, we rather use the LCB estimate of alpha obtained from round T in the UCB estimates. This is the only difference between adapt Paschen-Bandich and Paschen-Bandich algorithm. The authors now upper bound the regret of the Paschen-Bandich algorithm using this theorem. The only difference in the order of magnitude between the upper bound of adapt Paschen-Bandich and upper bound of Paschen-Bandich is that the alpha value here is the best possible value, which is the largest possible value of alpha, rather than what we use in the algorithm. The work ends with a few numerical experiments where there are two arms, and the reward distribution of each arm is Bernoulli, characterized by its mean, and the delay distribution is Pareto, characterized by alpha. The Paschen-Bandich algorithm is compared with DUCB algorithm, which is an algorithm optimal in the case where the delay distribution of each arm is the same. It is to be noted that the authors in this work have not made any assumption that the distribution of delay of every arm is the same. The first set of numerical experiments, the delay distribution of both the arms is fixed to be the same. The Paschen-Bandich algorithm is run with two different parameters, 0.1 and 0.5, and the DUCB algorithm is run with 5 different parameters. We obviously expect that the PB algorithm with 0.5 as a parameter perform better than the other one, which is the case here. We also note that a certain variant of the DUCB algorithm performs slightly better than the Paschen-Bandich algorithm, which is the case here, because this is the case where the delay distribution is the same for both the arms. In the second set of experiments, the delay distribution of both the arms is different. Here we obviously observe that the Paschen-Bandich algorithm have sublinear regret, whereas the DUCB algorithms have linear regret. We now move to the second work which we are going to discuss today. It is non-stationary delayed bandits with intermediate observation. This work discusses delayed bandits in a non-stationary setting. Most of the real-world problems are non-stationary, obviously. Delay and non-stationarity are strongly entangled. Let's consider the case in which the delay in rewards is d, and let's assume that the environment changes in less than d steps. This means that before we receive any reward, the environment changes, and thus we cannot learn anything useful. Let's move on to the non-stationary delayed bandit setting as discussed in the paper. It consists of 3 different steps with k different possible actions, which are the arms which the learner can pull. Additionally, there are s different outcomes associated with the actions. We'll see what the outcomes mean in the upcoming slides. There is a reward associated with the outcome. We now discuss in detail what happens at every step t. The learner is in state 0 initially. The learner chooses an action AT from the set of possible actions. A categorical outcome, which is essentially a state, is revealed to the learner. This state is sampled from the transition probabilities associated with the action. Since it's a non-stationary setting, the transition probabilities can change with time. Now, a reward RT is drawn from a fixed distribution, a Bernoulli distribution with parameter theta st. It is fixed in the sense it is fixed with respect to the state st. Also, this distribution does not change with time. This reward is revealed to the learner with the delay dt, which the learner can observe. For simplicity, the delay is fixed to be d by the authors. The learners then reset to state 0 before further steps. Thus, the memory is not carried over. This figure summarizes the entire process. The learner is at state 0 initially and takes an action AT. The learner then moves to a state ST, which is sampled from the transition probabilities associated with the action AT. A reward RT is then sampled from the reward distribution associated with the state ST. The learner is then reset to state 0 and the reward is revealed to the learner after a delay D. Note that the transition probabilities associated with the actions can change with time because it's a non-stationary setting. However, the reward distribution associated with the state does not change with time. This work also makes an additional assumption on the number of instances in which the transition probabilities can change. The authors assume that there are tau t instances in which the transition probabilities can abruptly change. This work uses the concept of dynamic regret. In order to define dynamic regret, we need to define expected return first. Expected return of an arm A is the conditional expectation of the reward obtained on pulling an arm A. In the expression of the expected return, notice that there is a transition probability associated with the action A and the expected reward associated with the status. We now define rho t star as the best expected return at step t among the arms. The most important thing is that rho t star depends on time t. We now define the dynamic regret. Dynamic regret is the difference between the sum of the best expected return at every step t and the expected return of an algorithm. It is dynamic because the comparator changes every step. We now move on to the algorithm proposed by the authors. It is NSD UCRL2. Before we do that, however, we define certain notations. NTW of A is essentially the number of times action A was chosen in a window of size W which ends at T. We move on to define an estimator for the transition probabilities associated with an action A. In this estimator, the numerator is the number of times in which choosing action A led to a state S in a window of size W which ends at step t minus 1. And the denominator is something which we discussed earlier. It is the number of times in which action A was chosen in a window of size W which ends at t minus 1. We need a window of size W here because of the presence of non-stationarity. Similarly, we define the term NTD of S, which is the number of times state S was reached until step t minus d. We essentially include a factor of d here because of the presence of delay. Theta hat t of S is an estimator of the mean of the reward associated with status. For this estimator to be unbiased, we require that the rewards be received. That is why the summation is until t minus d for which the rewards have been received. UT of S is an upper confidence bound on the mean of the reward associated with status. Notice that the second term is essentially similar to what we usually have in a bandit problem. We would like to define an upper confidence bound on the expected return of an arm A. Before we do that, we will make the following observation. PT hat is the estimated transition probability associated with action A at time t, which we have seen in the previous slides. If Q, being a transition vector, lies within this confidence interval, then Q lies in a high probability space for the true transition probability. With this property of Q and the upper confidence estimate UT as we have seen before, we now define the expected return, upper confidence bound on the expected return of an arm A. Let us now look at the NSD UCRL2 algorithm. The NSD UCRL2 algorithm takes in the number of arms, the number of outcomes, the window size W which was used in the estimate of the transition probability, and the error probability delta which was used in building the confidence intervals as inputs. The algorithm proceeds in the same way as a normal UCB algorithm. We compute all the estimates which we discussed in the previous slides and we pull the action AT, which has the highest upper confidence estimate of the expected return. The authors then move on to analyze the regret of their algorithm in the stationary case. Uh, the authors get the following, obtain the following probabilistic regret bound. Notice that there is a dependence on delta, which is the desired probability, and W, which is the window size. Fixing the choice of W as the order of T, we get another regret bound, which is similar to the optimal regret bound obtained in the standard bandit setting. The regret bound in a non-stationary case can be obtained by an analysis by an extension of the previous result. Um, so the authors now consider tau t switches is essentially the number of changes in the transition probabilities and a constant delay. The authors obtain the following regret bound. We notice that there is an additional linear term with respect to tau t in this new regret bound. This is essentially due to the non-stationarity induced. Now, choosing W to be this particular optimal value, we get the following regret bound. This work concludes with a few numerical experiments in the following setup of 4 arms and 3 states, and the initial reward and transition probability table as shown here. The authors also considered 3 changes in transition probabilities in order to introduce non-stationarity. The authors compare their main algorithm, which is the NSD UCRL2, with the sliding window UCB algorithm, which is a UCB version of UCB designed for non-stationary bandits, and the Oracle NSD algorithm, which is the NSD UCRL2 algorithm in which the instances in which the transition probabilities change are known. This restarts after every such change, and the Oracle UCB algorithm in which again the instances in which the transition probabilities change are known, and in this the standard UCB algorithm restarts after every change. Here are the regret plots of the 4 different algorithms which we consider for comparison under 2 different delay settings. We observe that the delays, the regrets of the UCB algorithms are higher than the regrets of the UCRL2 algorithms. This is expected because the UCB algorithms aren't designed to accommodate delays, whereas the UCRL2 algorithms are designed to accommodate delays. We also see that the performance gap increases as the delay increases. Thank you for watching this video. I would like to thank Dr. Abhishek Sinha, who is my instructor, for providing me with this wonderful opportunity to present this video.